Now, I've seen a lot of autofocus tests using the new Lumix GH7, and the thing is that everyone is doing the same kind of test, which is basically like this. Which is not very natural, is it? So I've done a lot of testing, which is more like real world testing, because this camera, as it can shoot in Arilog C3PO, Arilog, and it might be used mostly in a professional setting as a B camera, and also, of course, it's perfect for YouTubers as the autofocus and stability is supposed to be probably the best one on the market. Well, at least the stabilizing. I also compared it to my older GH6, and the reason I purchased the GH7 is 90% because of the autofocus, because I could not use this one anymore. I mostly use this one with cinema lenses, manual lenses, but I was tired and always trying to find the focus as I'm basically working alone. So I needed to get myself the GH7 with supposedly stellar autofocus. Is it stellar? Well, the first time I tried it, I was shocked, and not in a good way. So the first time I used the GH7, I set it up as a B cam, going back and forth on a slider, because if I use a cinema lens there, the focus is actually gonna go slightly off. So some of the images was then, of course, unusable. So I wanted to use the GH7 as a B cam for the first time trying it out, and it was horrible. It was so bad that I couldn't make the video. I didn't want to use the GH7 at all, and I am still considering sending it back. However, after testing it thoroughly, I might keep it. So what's the problem here? The face detection is pretty good. However, when it's set there on a B cam angle, your eyes and your face is not straight on. So what it's trying to do then is, of course, to decide which eye to focus on, right? So if I'm sideways, it tended to focus on the right eye, which is the eye that is furthest away. So this eye on the B cam was slightly out of focus. And it shouldn't be like that. I mean, okay, you have the focus limiting and stuff like that, but we're talking about this much, a few centimeters. And I don't think the focus limiter would necessarily sort that out. And I don't want to use the focus limiter. I want to use the GH7, press record, and it's an autofocus. Borderline acceptable results. Perfect? No, it's not. So if you're using this as a B cam, you have to keep that in mind, that it might actually be slightly out of focus. Now, I'm looking at myself down there all the time because I do not know if it's going to be in focus during the shoot or not. Now, compared to the GH6 on the B cam, the autofocus on the GH7 was much more stable. And I set it up in this way because I wanted to see the orbs in the background, if they were pulsating. And with the GH6, yes, they are pulsating quite a lot. So if I used the GH6 in a professional shoot, I would deem that footage to be unusable. For YouTube, maybe you can get away with it if you're using it outdoors where the background is not that easy to detect the pulsating orbs. You can get away with the GH6. Now, the GH7 though, when you look into the lens, the autofocus is, I would say that it is the best one that I have used. And I've been using Canon cameras, Sony cameras, and now Panasonic. I have also filmed my youngest kid. He just started his own YouTube channel. He's a gamer. So I was filming him while he was playing. He was maybe slightly off the lens, and during the 30 or 40 minutes that I filmed, he was in focus all the time, and him moving back and forth a bit because he's getting excited, you know, about the kills that he might get in Fortnite. That worked perfectly well, but again, the eyes were mostly looking into the, well, very close to the lens. At least you could see both eyes when he was playing. So the issue I have here is sideways, that it is struggling a bit to go to the nearest eye, and it tended always to focus on my right eye. I'm also tested it out, walking around a bit in the garden, thinking of vlogging with this GH7. So the autofocus is now usable. I tried both with and without sunglasses, and I think that I was in focus 100% of the time, if not 95, which is close enough for me. Oh yeah, and it might struggle a bit with the autofocus when it's too dark, which is kind of expected. Maybe Sony cameras would be a little bit better when it's low light. Sometimes I actually felt that if I pushed the ISO a little bit higher, the autofocus was a little bit more stable. So, I mean, just make sure that you light the room fairly well, or your scene, or whatever you're shooting. Now, I am going to use, hopefully I'm not going to return it, so I am going to use the GH7 a lot the upcoming weeks, and probably, hopefully, for a year or 2 or 3, or should I have bought the Canon R5 Mark II? Now, that's another video that we have to talk about. If it's not out yet, well, if it's out, check it out here. If not, I'm going to upload that within a day or 2, because I'm going to tell you the reason why I eventually went for the GH7.